They tell you to move on. They tell you she doesn't care. They tell you to let it go. But what if I told you she does care? What if I told you that silence isn't always strength? Sometimes it's fear. Her quiet isn't confidence, it's curiosity. She's watching to see if you'll break first, if you'll lose your calm, your control, your dignity. And most men do. They panic, they chase, they overthink. They start explaining what doesn't need to be explained. But not you. Not anymore. Because what you're about to learn is the power of doing nothing. The power of silence. The art of non-reaction. When you master silence, you stop being controlled by the world. You start directing it. This isn't about her anymore. It's about you. It's about self-command, inner discipline, and emotional sovereignty. So sit back, breathe. And by the end of this video, you'll never chase anyone again. Drop a comment right now. I will never chase again. Because this is where your power begins. Modern relationships are power dynamics. Every relationship, whether romantic, professional, or casual, holds a subtle current of energy, a quiet exchange of influence. It's not about domination, it's about direction. Two people meet, and almost immediately, one begins to set the emotional tone, while the other unconsciously follows. The one who reacts loses direction. The one who observes leads it. When you react to someone's distance, you confirm their power over you. When you chase, you reveal dependence. When you explain, you expose uncertainty. Most men don't lose women because they lack value. They lose them because they lose control of their presence. They let emotion become their master, and once that happens, the frame shifts. They stop being the center and become the satellite. Every test you face from another person is emotional, not verbal. It's not the words she says, but the silence that follows them. She's not looking for answers, she's sensing your composure. She doesn't need persuasion, she needs to feel your steadiness. True power in relationships is not loud, dramatic, or reactive. It's quiet, contained, deliberate. The man who can hold his ground in uncertainty radiates something magnetic, peace. And peace in a world addicted to noise becomes irresistible. That's why in every domain, business, love, or life, the man who masters stillness, the one who doesn't flinch when others expect him to, becomes impossible to replace. So let's break it down. Part 1. She expects you to react. Every story like this begins the same way. Not with a fight, not with words, but with a small shift, a pause that feels heavier than it should. Her messages become slower. Her tone becomes cooler. What once felt natural and warm now feels slightly distant. And that small change, that subtle silence, begins to echo in your mind louder than any argument could. You feel it, the instinct to fix it. That restless pull to do something, to reach out, to make things right. To send that message, is something wrong? To explain yourself, to bridge the gap, to restore what's slipping away. But stop for a moment. Because that impulse, that burning need to react, is exactly what she's waiting for. Not because she's manipulative or cruel, but because, consciously or not, every human being tests the balance of power in their relationships. We all want to know where we stand, who's more grounded, who's more centered, who can stay composed when the connection starts to wobble. When she pulls back, she's not necessarily walking away. She's watching. She's measuring. She's waiting to see if you'll crumble under the uncertainty. Will you stay still? Or will you chase? Because when she goes silent, she's not just retreating, she's listening. listening for your reaction, waiting for proof that her absence still controls you. And that's the first test every man faces in any relationship worth having, the test of stillness. Most men fail this test instantly. They feel the quiet and rush to fill it. They send another text. They ask what happened. They apologize for things they didn't do. They pour out reassurance, thinking that comfort will restore attraction. But reassurance doesn't rebuild attraction. It kills it. Because the moment you start explaining yourself to someone who's gone cold, you tell them, without words, that they control your emotional climate, that your peace depends on their attention. And the second you do that, the respect starts to evaporate. You become predictable. And predictability in love and in life is death to desire. A woman doesn't chase the man who needs her. She chases the man who doesn't. Because the man who doesn't need her validation to stay grounded is the man who makes her feel safe. Not safe like a comfort zone, but safe like a mountain, immovable, steady, certain. He doesn't beg for peace, he creates it. He doesn't demand attention, he commands it through presence. That's the quiet paradox of attraction. The moment you stop trying to prove your worth, you become worthy. The moment you stop chasing reassurance, you start radiating confidence. And confidence, when calm and authentic, is irresistible. So when she pulls away, when her messages fade, when you feel that tension in your chest, don't panic. Don't interpret it as rejection. Interpret it as a mirror. It's not showing you what she feels. It's showing you how much discipline you have. Every silence is an invitation, not to chase but to observe. Every pause is a test of patience, not love. And every distance is a chance to see whether you lead with emotion or with composure. Can you stay grounded in the storm? Can you let silence speak for you? Can you resist the need to react and instead respond with nothing but calm? Because silence, when it comes from strength, speaks volumes. It says, I am not desperate. I am not confused. I am not shaken. It says, I can stand on my own. And when you hold that silence, when you let it stretch and breathe, something profound begins to happen. The balance shifts. She expected you to break, but you didn't. She expected you to chase, but you didn't. She expected you to reach out, but instead you stood still. And now she's the one who feels the uncertainty. Because your silence does something her ego didn't prepare for. It creates space. And in that space, doubt begins to grow. She starts wondering, did I lose him? Why isn't he reacting? Has he changed? She begins to sense what every person fears when they test another, the realization that the other might actually not need them. That's where the power begins to shift. Not through games, not through tactics, but through discipline. You didn't manipulate her. You simply mastered yourself. And that mastery changes everything. Because when you stop reacting, you stop being controlled. When you stop explaining, you stop losing respect. And when you stop chasing, you start leading. This is the point where emotional detachment becomes visible, not as coldness, but as calm strength. The kind of strength that doesn't need to prove, defend, or perform. So next time it happens, when she pulls back, when she grows quiet, when you feel that anxious pull to reach out, pause. Don't rush to fix the silence. Become the silence. Because in a world where everyone is desperate to speak, the man who stays quiet commands attention. Remember, the goal isn't to win her back. The goal is to win yourself back. Your composure, your dignity, your peace. And ironically, once you stop trying to get her attention, that's when she starts to notice you again. Because true power isn't about forcing someone to stay. It's about being so complete within yourself that their absence doesn't shake you. It's about being able to say quietly and truthfully, I don't chase anymore. I wait. I observe. I hold. And in that holding, in that silence that feels eternal, something deep inside you shifts. You realize you were never waiting for her to respond. You were waiting for yourself to return. That's when you become unshakable. That's when you stop reacting to life and start directing it. That's when everything, including her, starts to move differently around you. Because stillness isn't weakness. It's power restrained. And the one who can hold still in uncertainty rules it. Part 2. Your silence breaks her control. Silence is terrifying. Not because it's empty, but because it's honest. Most people spend their lives running from it, drowning in music, noise, scrolling, distractions. We live in a world that fears quiet moments, because quiet exposes what's hidden beneath the noise. Silence is the mirror that reveals everything we've been avoiding. It shows us what we truly feel, what we've truly lost, and what still controls us. When you go silent, you're not just removing sound, you're removing access. And that, more than anything, unsettles people. Because silence isn't passive, it's active. It speaks without saying a word. When you stop responding, when you stop feeding her ego, something profound happens. She begins to hear the echo of her own decisions. Every text she didn't reply to, every time she pulled away, every cold word or dismissive tone, they come back to her now, not as actions, but as questions. She starts to realize she miscalculated. The attention she thought she could summon anytime she wanted isn't there anymore. The comfort of knowing you'd always reach out, always check in, always be available, it's gone. And in its place, silence. At first, she tells herself she doesn't care. She posts pictures, laughs with friends, fills her days with anything that might drown out the unease. She'll try to look radiant, confident, unaffected. But that's not joy, it's defense. Indifference in most people isn't the absence of emotion. It's the disguise of it. Deep down, that quiet starts to gnaw at her. She checks her phone, not to text you, but to see if you've texted her. She scrolls through your profile, not to reconnect, but to confirm you're still orbiting her world. She starts noticing things she never used to. Your absence from her notifications, your calmness, your new silence. And it bothers her. Because she's beginning to feel something she hasn't felt in a long time. Doubt. Doubt is the seed of reflection. It's the small crack in certainty that grows with every unanswered question. And now that seed has been planted. She starts asking herself questions she never expected to ask. Did I lose him? Was he different from the others? Did I misjudge his worth? What if I pushed too far? These questions don't come from love, not yet. They come from ego, from the mind's desperate need to understand why control has shifted. You must understand this. Silence doesn't punish, it clarifies. It doesn't manipulate, it reveals. It shows people exactly where the balance of strength lies. When a man reacts emotionally, when he rushes to fill the silence, he's proving that she still dictates his emotional state. But when he can remain calm, deliberate, composed, unwavering, he changes the entire dynamic. Because energy is real, even when words aren't spoken. When you withdraw your energy without anger, without resentment, and without a trace of desperation, you communicate something far more powerful than any speech could express. I am not yours to control. That kind of stillness carries weight. It shifts perception. because she was expecting reaction, a message, a confession, a sign of weakness, and she got silence instead. And silence is difficult to interpret. The human mind hates uncertainty. It prefers anger, even rejection, to indifference, because anger at least means connection. But silence leaves no clear answer. And that is what drives her thoughts wild. Now every time she opens her phone and doesn't see your name, she feels it. That void, that subtle sting of disconnection. She wonders what you're doing, who you're with, whether you've moved on. And suddenly, you're not the one being measured, she is. That's how silence breaks control, not through cruelty but through absence. Because the mind that once felt dominant now has to face itself. Remember, control isn't always about action. It's about direction. Who leads the emotional tempo? The one who can remain unmoved in the face of tension is the one who holds the power. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." In this case, the best response is not to react as she expects. Don't mirror her games. Don't match her tone. Don't play her rhythm. Change the rhythm entirely. Your silence is not a wall, it's a reflection. It forces her to see what she's done, what she assumed, and what she's lost. It forces her to reckon with her own pride. And it allows you to reclaim what was never hers to begin with, your peace. Because silence, when chosen consciously, is a form of discipline. It means you no longer need to prove your worth to anyone. You no longer need to correct misunderstandings or chase closure. You've closed the loop within yourself. And that's what shakes her most. Because for the first time, she's facing a version of you that's not reactive, but reflective. A version that doesn't beg, doesn't plead, doesn't flinch. And once a man reaches that level of self-command, the dynamic can never return to what it was. She will sense it. She will test it. But she will also respect it. Because real strength, the kind that lasts, doesn't shout. It doesn't chase. It doesn't demand. It simply is. That's why silence isn't emptiness. It's presence without noise. It's the mark of a man who's learned the hardest lesson of all, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Part 3. She starts to doubt herself. Doubt is a strange teacher. It humbles us, it slows us down. It pulls apart the certainty we once wore like armor and makes us question what we thought we understood. At first, she doesn't feel it. She still believes she's in control. She tells herself, he'll be back. She believes she still has time. She thinks this silence is just another move in the game, that you're playing along. She's confident that eventually you'll reach out, that you'll cave first. But silence has a way of stretching time. Every hour of quiet feels longer than it should. Every day without your message becomes a question without an answer. And little by little, the certainty that once kept her ego secure begins to fade. At first, it's subtle, a moment of curiosity, a glance at your profile, a quick scroll through your posts. Then it becomes more deliberate. She starts to check again and again. Not because she misses you yet, but because she can't stand not knowing what's happening inside your mind. She starts to wonder, what's he thinking? Does he miss me? Has he moved on? That's when she replays your old conversations, not for nostalgia, but for clues. She's looking for signs that you were more attached than you appeared. She's analyzing your words, your tone, your last message, searching for proof that she still has an invisible hold over you. But she doesn't find it. And that's when the narrative in her mind begins to shift. You're no longer the one who needed her. You're no longer the predictable man who chased reassurance. You've become something else entirely, a mystery. A man who walked away from her silence without needing to announce it. A man who didn't crumble when ignored. A man who simply moved on with quiet certainty. And that realization, that she misread your depth, that she underestimated your strength, that's the moment everything changes. You see, attraction isn't about words, it's not even about looks. It's about perception. The perception of value. When you were chasing her, your energy told her you needed her approval to feel whole. But your silence, your calm detachment, now tells her something else, that you don't. And nothing amplifies a man's perceived value faster than the grace with which he handles absence. Because grace is not weakness. Grace is control without cruelty. It's strength wrapped in calm. It's saying, I could reach out, but I won't. It's power restrained. That restraint is what begins to unnerve her. Because suddenly she can no longer predict you. She can no longer depend on your reactions to stabilize her ego. You've stepped out of the role she assigned you, and now she's uncertain who you are. And uncertainty is magnetic. The mind always chases what it can't define. That's when doubt starts whispering louder. She rethinks your last conversation. She reimagines what you meant when you said certain things. She wonders if she was too cold, too distant, too quick to pull away. And for the first time, the confidence she used to wear like a shield begins to crack. But here's where most men ruin everything. Because the moment that doubt starts to work in their favor, they panic. They misread her curiosity as affection. They confuse her testing for sincerity. She'll send a message, small, vague, safe. Something like, "Hey, hope you're doing okay." It won't sound emotional, and it's not meant to. It's a fishing line. She's not trying to reconnect, she's measuring. She wants to see if the hook still fits. And most men take the bait. They respond instantly, eager to prove they've moved on. They try to play it cool, but their excitement leaks through every word. They give away the power they just reclaimed. That's why this stage, the stage of doubt, is the most dangerous one. Because it tests your discipline more than her silence ever did. You must remember, she's not reaching out to heal the connection, she's reaching out to check if she still controls it. She doesn't want conversation. She wants confirmation. And if you give it to her, if you show her that you're still waiting, still emotionally attached, still seeking closure, the balance resets. You go back to the very place you started, reactive, uncertain, powerless. So what do you do instead? You stay calm. You stay grounded. You stay silent. Because the goal isn't to prove you've moved on. It's to actually move on. You're not trying to make her miss you. You're learning to stop needing her in order to feel complete. That's the real victory. Not when she texts again, but when her text no longer matters. And when that happens, when her message no longer stirs your emotions, when you can read it without that old pulse of excitement or pain, that's when you know you've changed. You've shifted from reaction to reflection, from chasing to choosing, from attachment to awareness. And if she ever does return, it should not be because she misses your attention. It should be because she's grown enough to respect your silence. Not because she wants to test it, but because she finally understands it. Because silence, when rooted in strength, is not a weapon. It's a boundary. It says, I will not fight for what does not meet me halfway. I will not explain what peace already knows. I will not confuse testing for love. Your calmness becomes your compass. Your restraint becomes your reputation. And the world, including her, begins to see you differently. She started this story certain that she could pull you in whenever she wanted. But now she's the one watching, waiting, wondering. And you? You're no longer reacting to her story. You're writing your own. Part 4. When she tries to pull you back. When people lose control, they don't surrender it quietly. They fight to restore it. It's not cruelty, it's human nature. The moment she senses that your silence is real, that it's not a tactic or a mood, but a choice, something inside her stirs. She begins to feel what you once felt, uncertainty. And uncertainty is unbearable for the ego. So she acts. But she won't act with honesty, not at first. She'll act with strategy. It starts small, barely noticeable if you're not paying attention. A memory text. This reminded me of you. A random emoji sent without context. A post that feels suspiciously directed at you. Or maybe she simply starts appearing again, watching your stories, liking your old photos, finding small ways to step back into your orbit. These are not accidents. They are signals, quiet, calculated probes to test your emotional temperature. She's not fighting for you, she's fighting for certainty. She needs to know that she still matters. She needs to confirm that she still has influence over your emotions. And here's the paradox. The less you react, the more intense her attempts will become. Because when silence doesn't bend, it forces truth to surface. She'll try another angle. Maybe something sentimental this time. I drove past that place we used to go. Maybe something passive. Hope you're doing okay. Or something playful. A picture meant to trigger nostalgia, desire, or jealousy. Each message is designed for one thing, a reaction. Because if you react, she wins. Not because she's cruel, but because she regains her emotional footing. She can tell herself, he still cares, I still matter, I still have control. If you respond instantly, emotionally, eagerly, you reset the cycle. You step back into the same story you worked so hard to escape. You return to the cage you just broke out of. You remind her that no matter what she does, she can always call you back with one word. But if you don't react, if you see the message and let it pass, if you stay still and composed, something different happens. You create space. And space changes everything. Because only in space can people truly see what they've lost. Only in space can truth breathe. When you no longer rush to fill the silence starts speaking for you. It says, I've changed. I'm not waiting anymore. You no longer control my peace. This space doesn't punish her. It educates her. It reminds her that attention is earned, not owed. It forces her to see the contrast between who you used to be and who you've become. And as that realization sinks in, something powerful begins to happen. She might show up again, this time differently. Less pride, more sincerity. Less testing, more truth. You might hear words like, I've been thinking a lot about us. I realize I was wrong. I miss you. And this is where your real test begins. Because this isn't about revenge. It's about discernment. Forgiveness doesn't mean repetition. Acceptance doesn't mean access. When she comes back, if she comes back, you must decide not from loneliness, not from nostalgia, not from ego, but from peace. Ask yourself, does this person bring calm or chaos into my life? Do her actions align with her words? Is this connection built on growth or on the fear of losing control again? Because a woman who returns out of regret will soon repeat the same cycle. But a woman who returns out of growth, out of genuine respect for your silence, your boundaries, your self-mastery, that's different. She'll approach you with humility, not pride. With accountability, not excuses. And if that happens, your stillness will have done its work. But here's the truth that most men don't want to hear. She might not come back at all. She might walk away completely. And that too is a gift. Because her absence is not a failure. It's feedback. It shows you what happens when someone who doesn't value your peace loses access to it. And that's a lesson no words could have taught you. Sometimes silence doesn't bring reconciliation, it brings revelation. It shows you that what you thought was love was just attachment. That what you mistook for connection was dependency. That what you needed wasn't her, it was yourself. When you reach that understanding, her silence no longer hurts. It heals. Because now you see what she couldn't, that you didn't lose her. You lost the version of yourself that needed her validation to feel worthy. That's the quiet strength of emotional maturity, to forgive but not to repeat. To listen but not to lose yourself again. To understand but still walk away. So if she reaches out, with texts, posts, signals or tears, don't rush to respond. Let her words breathe in the same silence that once suffocated you. If her intentions are real, they'll survive the quiet. If they aren't, the silence will expose them. And if she never reaches out again, let that be your teacher. Because not every silence is a punishment, some are protection. Not every ending is loss, some are liberation. The Stoics remind us, we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Her silence was never the wound, your reaction was. And now that you've mastered it, there's nothing left to fear. So if she tries to pull you back, don't resist in anger and don't submit in weakness. Stand still. Let your peace speak for you. Because stillness doesn't just end her control, it begins your freedom. Part 5. Mastering Emotional Detachment. Everything changes the moment you detach. The noise quiets. The weight lifts. The world starts moving differently, not because it changed, but because you did. Most people misunderstand detachment. They think it means indifference, coldness, or lack of care. It's not. Detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling, it means you stop being ruled by what you feel. It's not the rejection of love, it's the refusal to lose yourself in it. Detachment means freedom. It means you can care deeply without being controlled. You can love without collapsing. You can stay calm when the world shakes around you. It means you finally understand what the Stoics meant when they said, the obstacle is the way. Because the obstacle, the pain, the silence, the distance, wasn't meant to destroy you. It was meant to reveal you. This is the essence of Stoic art, the discipline of perception, to see things as they are, not as fear paints them. The discipline of emotion, to feel without being swept away. The discipline of will, to act only from clarity, never from chaos. Epictetus wrote, "We cannot control what happens to us. We can only control how we respond." That single sentence is the foundation of every strong man's peace. When you learn detachment, you stop reacting. You stop letting other people's moods dictate your own. You stop giving every moment of silence the power to define your worth. You start observing. You learn to pause before you speak, to reflect before you decide, to walk away before you collapse. You start to realize that peace isn't something you find in another person. It's something you build inside yourself. And once you build it, no one can take it from you. That's the quiet power of detachment. It doesn't make you cold, it makes you clear. Most people chase validation because they've never built internal peace. They're addicted to reassurance, to the feeling of being wanted. They scroll, post, text, call, trying to get someone else to confirm what they should already know. that they are enough. But the man who validates himself, the one who no longer needs anyone to tell him his worth, becomes magnetic. He doesn't chase attention. He attracts it. He doesn't try to prove he's valuable. He lives in a way that silently proves it. People feel it in his presence. They sense it in his tone. He doesn't perform, he doesn't convince, he simply is. That's why detachment is the highest form of strength. Because no one can manipulate a man who has mastered himself. No one can threaten him with silence. No one can control him through affection. No one can make him panic through distance. He's no longer fighting for control. He is control. When a man reaches that level of inner calm, life stops being a competition. He stops comparing. He stops explaining. He stops seeking. He simply lives. He moves through the world with quiet confidence, not because he believes he'll never lose, but because he knows he'll never collapse. Loss doesn't destroy him, it educates him. Rejection doesn't humiliate him, it refines him. Distance doesn't scare him, it centers him. Because he knows that everything temporary carries within it something permanent. Every ending teaches patience. Every heartbreak teaches restraint. Every silence teaches clarity. Every disappointment teaches control. That's the lesson of detachment, not to escape life, but to endure it with grace. When you master detachment, your peace becomes your presence. You stop chasing emotions and start creating stability. You no longer beg for answers, you observe them unfold. You no longer fear the unknown, you trust yourself to adapt to it. You stop saying, "I need her to understand me," and you start saying, "I understand myself." You stop blaming others for your suffering. You stop begging for closure. You stop breaking every time something leaves. You simply move forward, calmly, deliberately. You understand that life isn't about control, it's about composure. It's about mastering yourself in a world designed to distract you. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." That's detachment. It's not about withdrawing from the world. It's about engaging with it differently. It's about loving deeply without ownership, giving fully without expectation, and walking away without bitterness. When you master this, people will notice. They'll feel something different about you. They'll see a man who doesn't flinch when tested, who doesn't explain when misunderstood, who doesn't chase when ignored. They'll see a man who has become unshakable, not because he's numb, but because he's free. And freedom is what every soul is ultimately chasing. So let go of the illusion that peace comes from control. It comes from surrender, not to others, but to wisdom. It comes from understanding that your emotions are yours to command, your mind is yours to shape, and your boundaries are yours to protect. When you reach this place, you stop asking, "What should I do to make them stay?" And you start asking, "What must I become so that nothing external can break my peace again?" That's the transformation. That's the reward of detachment. Because when no silence can shake you, no distance can define you, no rejection can unmake you, you've become something rare. A man at peace in a world built on noise. A man who loves without fear. A man who walks away with dignity. And when you can stand there, steady, unbothered, free, you'll finally understand that the real victory was never in getting them back. It was in getting yourself back. The final reflection. By now you understand something deeper than the surface lesson. The silence was never about her, it was always about you. It was never about proving anything to anyone, it was about reclaiming yourself. about realizing that your emotions don't need an audience, that your worth doesn't need to be witnessed to exist. That peace isn't found in someone's attention, it's found in your own discipline. You've learned that love isn't something to chase. It's something to embody in how you move, speak, and carry yourself through uncertainty. When you stopped needing her approval, you met the calm man beneath the chaos, the one who was there all along, waiting to lead. She might come back, she might not. Either way, you win. Because the real victory isn't in her return, it's in your evolution. The real prize isn't her validation, it's the man you became while learning to live without it. So now, walk quietly. Move deliberately. Let your silence be your armor and your language. When life tests you again, when someone pulls away, provokes you, or doubts your worth, remember this moment. Breathe. Stand still. Let the storm pass around you. Because the man who has mastered his silence doesn't fear the noise of the world. He listens. He observes. And when he finally speaks, every word carries the weight of everything he's overcome. The man who masters his silence masters everything. Closing. If you've made it to this moment, your transformation has already begun. You've stepped out of the chaos and into clarity. You're no longer chasing what isn't yours. You're choosing what aligns with your peace. You're no longer reacting to what happens. You're responding with intention. You're no longer begging for calm. You've become it. This is the quiet power most men never reach, the kind that can't be taught, only earned through stillness, restraint, and self-mastery. You've stopped trying to control everything outside you, and in doing so, you've taken full command of yourself. And that makes you untouchable. So write it below, not as a comment, but as a commitment. I am untouchable. Because from this moment on, that isn't just a phrase. It's who you are. And the world will feel the difference.